Good
And welcome.
morning.
Damn it.
Damn it.
Follow the cue cards. Good morning. And
I'm Melinda McKenzie.
I'm Tom Wise.
You're here to unpack some shit with us.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Yes.
Yeah, the freshly, is it shaven or shoven or what is it? Sheared.
You've been sheared, young man.
Yeah, I shaved down to the skin the other yesterday Sunday.
What motivated that? Any reason?
You know, I was out with Patrick and
Yes.
Robin, my friends, for the
Yes.
hockey game. We were at an outdoor arena, which were legally
Okay.
allowed, but plenty of space. And we're watching
That,
the.
no,
Go
that
ahead.
sentence alone where we're legally allowed. It's crazy.
It's nuts. I don't feel. I think an outside space when the wind's blowing by the bay.
Yes.
I mean, I'm not going to sit in my house forever.
Right.
I think that's. I think the beach closures. If people were just told to be careful, I think everybody could relax, and that's not probably a bad space. You know, that's just me. What the hell do I know? You know, you might get it or not, but I feel comfortable there.
Yeah.
I don't feel
I love
comfortable
it.
sitting in the corner of a restaurant.
Yeah.
I would not feel comfortable.
Right. I'm with you. You know, you're in Florida. I'm in New York. It's very different here. We're getting notifications that we're rolling back some of the things we were allowed to do. So it's so frustrating when I see my friends in Florida. They're in restaurants posting pictures, and I'm just like, man, it's so different here, you know?
It's I mean, we're 100% open now. I think you've got a couple of things that they won't allow. I mean, the Bucks themselves aren't going to allow people in the stadium.
Yeah.
And the baseball either. I mean, I think I'd feel uncomfortable with, sitting around. It's crazy because the Bucks are having a great season. Tampa Bay is going to be in the series. They're made it to the playoffs.
Okay.
So that would have been fun. A lot of the sporting teams I follow are having Lightning. My gosh, they're one win away tonight from winning the Stanley Cup, and that's going to be in an empty stadium.
Wow.
I mean, how sad is that for everybody who's watching that thing?
Yes. Yeah.
But I don't think I'd feel comfortable sitting in with 20,000 people. But who
No.
knows? Whatever.
I don't know either. I mean, I'm trying to keep up on the news enough just so I'm informed, but not so I'm crazy, because everybody has very strong opinions on all the sides. So I think you're right. What you said is, like, be smart, be safe in your own area, and then we'll take it from there. My issue has been that people that are very vocal about, don't make me wear a mask. Well, we're trying to talk about everybody being safe, all right? Just have respect for your fellow human being, and I'm missing seeing respect for people right now.
Yeah, the mask is not, and it's still, you see people posting, if you're not feeling safe, you should wear a mask. The mask isn't about me feeling safe. It's about me protecting you knucklehead.
Yeah.
And you're still arguing that 6-7 months later? That's still your argument?
Yes. When this whole thing started, there was a woman in New York. We have a neighborhood group that we're in, and she posted, because it was new, right? Everybody was still trying to figure out, what do we do about this mask thing? She was in line with the mask, and she said the lady in front of her turned around and said, "Oh, you think you're going to be safe wearing a mask?" And she said, I pulled my mask down, and she said, "I'm a nurse. I'm wearing this to protect you."
Yeah.
She said that shut the lady right up, because people aren't thinking about what this is about. Yeah, I don't know the answer, man.
No, nobody knows the answer. I mean, I started wearing the mask in, I think it was March.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. If you go back on my timeline on Facebook, I had a little, I pretended to be a ventriloquist wearing the mask, because I started wearing a mask in March. I mean, the South Koreans started wearing masks in the middle of February.
Right.
And they had less than 400 dead out of this whole thing. Masks, temperature checks, drive-through testing by February 18th. Tracking. By the way, I tried to become a part of the tracking system, but people are freaking out on Facebook. Oh my God, there's an app now. You got to turn it off because they're going to track your ass. Well, they're tracking you anyway. You have a cell phone. They know exactly where you are.
Isn't that funny?
I said, and you know what? I tried to activate it. Florida's not participating in the tracking system.
Florida. I think it's funny that people are mad that they're going to be tracked. Are they not aware of our world today? Do you have a phone? You're tracked. Get over it.
You're tracked, bitch.
You are tracked, bitch. So I'm so curious to know what you want to talk about today. What your
Oh,
topics are.
all right. Email power move.
Oh,
Um, Trump chess. I know I don't like to be political, but I just like to analyze that from just a
yes.
just from an
Yes.
analysis. Then
Yes.
I've got two tips of the day plus flowers and short money. Have we ever done flowers yet? I've been yammering about this for a month, and
Yeah.
then short money. I've been
Okay.
yammering about that too. What are yours?
Yammer, yammer, yammer. I have the Museum of Broken Relationships.
You had some good ones last week. We never got to. I hope you.
That's classic me right there. Google this is something I did talk about a
Okay.
couple weeks. I do want to do Google this. I see dead people. And what's your word?
You had other good ones yet last time.
Yeah, I'll have to look on Fridays and
Okay.
and transfer them over.
Okay.
I really want to do the power email. I'm so curious what that
Oh,
is.
it's a small little thing, but the power
Tell me.
email is the email that you get from somebody who's writes you checks, somebody that has authority over you in some fashion. All right,
Mhm.
vendor, whatever. All right,
Yes.
not a girlfriend, boyfriend, neighbor. It could be a neighbor, but the power email is the one where they ask a question and they get a response, and there's no, hey, thanks for the update. All the information just flows towards them, but they never can respond like, got it, good idea, thanks for that. Thanks for keeping me on. I was like saying, is it that much trouble? Because I identified a problem. I was supposed to get samples for something, right?
Yes.
And the samples were supposed to come last Friday. It's at 10:30. So at 2 o'clock on Friday, I put up a nice little flag saying, "Hey, I'm tracking this thing. It says the label's been printed, but the not been returned, and it doesn't look like it's in transit. There's something wrong here." Now, I
Yeah.
mean, we got plenty of time to make it right. I just want to put you in the loop because somebody spent a lot of money to overnight something that weighed 9 pounds from California,
Yes.
and so I made them no feedback. I just that went just one way. And of course, over the weekend, they said, "Hey, did you get that thing yet?" I go, "I have not." But I rechecked the tracking and it looked like it was on track for Monday. So I reported that. Hey, looks like we're on track for Monday. And then I got it today. Hey, shipment received. No response on any of those.
What is that about? I have issues with that with
Wouldn't you
work.
just say thanks for the update? I'm glad, thanks for taking care of this. I mean, it becomes not teamwork. It becomes just one way.
It's common courtesy to respond. Do you think it's because we've become so distant from each other with all the texting and everything that we no longer find it necessary to have basic courtesy?
It's a power move. If I'm writing a check, I get to decide whether I respond or not. You just dance to my tune.
Yeah, I
And I
will
get
say,
it.
yeah,
Just thanks to
it-
another message received, right? I mean, we probably all received emails or some text like that where it's just one way, I guess.
I guess well, because the other thing we talked about, Tom, is especially right now. Well, it's different for Florida because you guys are back out in the world, but during the lockdown time, I found that people had shorter fuse when it came to responses because they're like, "You're home, you're home." Well, here's the thing with being home: you don't own me.
Right. Yeah,
If
I've
I
tracked your ass.
right,
Yeah, right.
and I don't like that at all. Like just because I'm home doesn't mean that I have to bow down to you. Like maybe I put my phone down and I'm doing something else. So that's been kind of a stressful thing too. Is like I know you're home
I think
because
people are
I'm home.
I think people are stressed out. Anyway, I was out having coffee yesterday about 11 o'clock in the morning, right?
Yes,
And I'm at the local Starbucks / Panera. And,
yes.
outside, sitting outside, mask on, go in, get your deal, mask off, come out,
Down in Turpin, that one in
uh,
Turpin.
well, not a Tarpon, the one, I guess, Oldsmar on Tampa Road.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Look at you with a cup of Joe. So I'm having coffee, and this guy, there's kind of a drive-through situation going on. This guy drives, and he just stops. He's in the parking lot, and he just stops, and he's looking at his phone, and cars are piling up behind him. And there's plenty of parking spaces that you could just drive into a parking space and fiddle with your phone till till it's time for retirement, early retirement, I suggest.
Early.
But so he sits there while there's two cars behind him. And so finally somebody gives him a little tap on the horn. He pulls up a little bit and they kind of then he blocks 3 parking spaces without pulling in. So people still have to drive around him. It's like, really?
Is it ignorance or is
Oh.
it ego? What do you think?
Ego. I mean, if you were behind yourself, you'd think the guy was an ass. Who just stops in the middle of I want to check my email, or I want to get this this text out.
Yeah.
Just stops in the middle of the road. Stop.
In my experience, it's older white guys.
That's probably true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't like blanket statements. I don't, but I will say this. It's just because culturally and the era, you definitely reflect the era that you're raised in and your how you've been treated throughout your life. And if you had been treated throughout your life.
And I think it was an older white guy.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Older white guys that were in the 70s, really 60s and 70s, well, even the 50s, but I don't know about that. Men could do whatever they wanted. They could say anything, and people would be like, okay, all right.
This is Make America Great Again.
And yeah, and so I get how sorry, my phone just went off because Cuomo just announced we're having
it is over.
An eviction moratorium. Cuomo, my best friend Cuomo. No, so I get it. It's kind of like the Michael Jackson thing where you saw him on TV where he'd say, I want this, I want this, I want this, because no one around him said no.
Right.
Oh, just do whatever the fuck you want. And my experience when I traveled on planes and hotels, older white guys would walk in front of me, would step on my feet to get in front of me. And then when I go, hey, they'd say, oh, well, this is first class or this is priority. Like, because I'm just an old lady, I'm not. I got into a fight with a guy once because he literally ran over my foot and I go, hey, buddy. So everybody looks, right? Well, let's see the lady. What's the lady? What's the crazy lady going to do? Forget about the guy. And he looks at me, he goes, well, I'm in first class. I was standing in the line. I'm yelling now. I'm yelling. And so I said, I went off. I don't remember all my words, but I was pointing a lot and saying, you don't know me. You don't. And everybody was watching. And I said, you don't know if I'm in first class or not. And I don't even have to tell you, I'm here. Back. I said, back.
I'm a human being.
Back the fuck off.
Wow.
People started clapping.
Thank you. Well, that's the famous, I love that story, but that's the famous, a plane gets canceled and there's 35 people in line to reschedule their thing. They're talking to and this old white guy comes in his business suit. He just walks to the front of the line and he demands to be, handled. And
yes.
The lady, the ticket agent says, sir, you have to go to the back of the line. Do you know who I am? Do you know who I am? And then she gets on the microphone. There's an old white guy here, doesn't know who he is. Can anyone help us out? He doesn't know who he is. Do you know who I am?
I could never work in customer service. I would never make it. But the audacity of people to treat other people badly, how dare you? And I don't normally speak like that in public. I'm usually more demure about it, but he just flipped my switch.
Of course.
And so.
Of course. And you know what the beautiful thing?
You lost your volume with me.
What?
There, you're back. You said the beautiful thing is, and then you went away.
The beautiful thing is, are we good there?
Yes.
Hold on. Let's see what my default mic is.
Check your default mic.
Is this here?
I can hear it.
Testing. 1, 2, 3.
Yep, you're there.
Not here?
No.
The beautiful thing is you're doing a favor for everybody who's in his world, because he's used to bossing his wife around, bossing his kids around, bossing everybody at work around because I'm a millionaire.
Yes.
Oh, after I hate.
Well, and it's always guys in suits, Tom. For some reason, when a guy puts a suit on.
Well, you got that famous meme of Trump pushing out other guys at
Yes.
the UN, right? He's physically pushing people back so he can get a
And
in
they
front.
let him. That's the thing.
Well,
He
because they
showed
couldn't believe it. Your first instinct is there must be an emergency. Somebody has to, is
that's
somebody
true.
on, that's as as a human, if somebody
That's
grabs you
true.
and pushes away, there must be somebody
Yes.
dying and, like an ambulance, make way, make way. Not just
Yes.
make way for some old bloated
Right?
jackass.
Welcome to my world. I'm 5'4", so I'm not that tall, and I always dress homeless when I travel because I want to be comfortable. I don't wear my heels or my skirts or anything, so I'm wearing loose, baggy everything. So he decides based on my physical appearance that he's superior to me.
Fine.
But anyway,
It's the old improv, right? Who's got what's it
yes,
called?
when you have the
Status.
levels, the
High status, low status, right? By what
high
you're
status,
wearing,
low
how
status.
you posture
Yes,
yourself.
he didn't understand that I was going to pull my status out when I needed it.
Yeah, my status is in my back pocket, bitch.
Right here. So,
Uh,
yeah. So anyway, I do like that, the power email. That's a very real thing, and it does happen a lot to me in work, I will say, and it does miff me, but I have to let it go because they do pay my checks.
yeah, I mean, it's a courtesy, though. Yeah, got it. Okay, thanks for that update, or whatever.
Yeah. Which one of
one?
mine?
What's that?
Which one of mine do you want to do?
Here's my MO. I write everything down, and then I can't make heads or tails of anything.
Okay, so I have
something word looks like McSusan. Google, I see dead. There you go.
I'll just text them to you before we do the show, so you don't have to write them down. Okay.
Maybe it's museum instead of McSusan.
Museum of Broken Relationships.
Let's do that.
Okay, so
McSusan.
I would love to do McSusan. Let's do that next week. So I was on the Bumble because we did the whole.
I know. I'm sorry you were so stressed out.
That's okay. You know what? I obviously have issues to deal with. And maybe if it wasn't for a pandemic, I would feel more free about it because I get it. People want to meet you right away. And we're already pulling back on what we can do in New York. And I just don't feel right about risking. I have been in my house since March. Am I really going to go out and risk myself for a strange man like that?
You'd be a mad, dead person.
Right? So that was part of it. But anyway, so since I was on Bumble, it brought up, I had to think about relationships and what am I willing to do? So I was looking at interesting things online about dating. And okay, I love this thing called Post Secret. Have you ever heard of Post Secret?
No, ma'am.
It's fantastic. It's a man that came up with the concept of people that carry around secrets suffer for them. So he created a suffer.
Oh, secret suffer.
Am I drunk again?
No, I missed the word. I thought you said supper, and I didn't want to, since it seemed integral to the story.
Well, I have been drinking. You don't know what I'm drinking. So anyway, he created a
Dean
forum.
Martin.
He created a forum where online you could share your secrets anonymously to get rid of your burden. It became so popular, he created a book, Post Secrets. Please look it up. It's fascinating.
Did you watch the movie I recommended?
Which one? Oh, the Andy Griffith one?
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
I'm going to do it today.
I knew it.
I spent all weekend buying an SUV. I bought an SUV. That's what I did.
Nice. Make it park in the garage or park in the driveway the way the good Lord intended.
That's right. So anyway, then it was so popular with the book, he invited people and said, listen, if you want to share your secrets. So then the forums became very popular. So it became this thing about unburdening the secrets because people started getting support when they said, I wasn't able to say goodbye to my father, and people like me too, support, right?
I'm sure there's a lot worse things than that people want to talk about.
There's some bad shit on there. Bad. You should read it. So anyway, along that same forum of secrets, I was Googling different things about relationships and secrets, and this thing came up. There's an actual museum in Los Angeles called the Museum of Broken Relationships. There's also one overseas, and it's fascinating. And what it does is it collects items and stories from people that have suffered from broken relationships, and it kind of creates this, this whole compatibility of like, oh, I've gone through that too. Well, how sad is that? So one of the quotes from the thing that I was reading is, and this case, it broke my heart. We all make up stories in our head, right? If we think our relationship's good, if we think it's bad, we don't always say it out loud. Sometimes we're just all in here, and that's why relationships fail. So this one girl wrote, my boyfriend gave me a beautiful ring and I lost it down a drain and he replaced it. So I love that ring and I was trying to fit it on my finger and it bent and it fell off. So he got me another one.
A third ring?
So she said, I was so careful with that third ring because he worked so hard and it was so valuable to him that I have a beautiful ring. And then he left me. And it was just kind of like, I can see as a girl, these things are happening, and materialistically, he's showing you, hey, baby, I'm going to fix this ring. Hey, you know what? It's okay. I'll replace the ring. Now, I don't know the other issues that were in the relationship, but for her, in her head, the ring was symbolizing, hey, he keeps replacing it. We're good.
What do you think the symbolization to him it was that she kept on losing the ring?
I thought about that. Yes, I thought about that. I will say,
very one-sided.
When I was married, there were times my husband said he couldn't wear his ring. It was very uncomfortable.
I ended up losing my ring. I could not ever get comfortable with the ring on my finger. It was like a cracked tooth.
Really?
I fiddled with it constantly, and then eventually I took it off and had it in the console. I was never up to and no good by any stretch of the imagination, but I just couldn't. It was just like I couldn't forget about it. So I eventually lost it.
You know, and I guess it just depends on your partner what the symbolism means to them. Because
Right.
I will say, I did find out later. I mean, it's funny to me now, but I found out later he was traveling for work and he was in Atlanta. And I found out through somebody else that they had a singles night. And he went to the singles night. So when I said, what the hell are you doing? He said, oh, because you were winning. It's not about being single. I won prizes. You know, he did that whole gaslighty thing. And of course, at the time, I ended up apologizing to him, like, I'm so sorry. Of course, I want you to win prizes.
Why did I not trust you?
Again, it's funny now, but you know this. Oh, look at you! But anyway, this museum. There's one overseas. There's one in Los Angeles. So I put it in my phone. Next time I go to LA, I'm gonna visit it. I think it's
so you donate your item and tell the story about the item. Like, this is a jacket that she bought me, or this is our last trip to Alaska, or something like that.
Yeah, and so they decide what they want to collect, and so it's an impactful, like the girl's story about the ring. There's nothing else listed, so I don't know if she was an alcoholic or you know what I mean. But just the way it was written was like, well, shit. I would have put a lot of emphasis in the ring too had he kept replacing it, but maybe for him that was it. But I still think relationships are fascinating.
Of course, no, that's very interesting, and there's a lot of times you have things associated with the relationship that certainly continue on past the relationship.
Yes.
I mean, did I tell you the story about when I was 21, I was dating Jennifer Mueller, and I ended up building a bookcase and a nightstand out of pine, nothing expensive, nothing extravagant, with my brother, who's 10 years older, and he was a carpenter. He is a carpenter. So I made those two things for her when she was, when we were dating. We dated for about 3 years. So
Okay.
eventually we do break up.
Yes.
And maybe, they were hers. They were hers to do with as she wished.
Yeah.
And I had been in contact with her over the years, a little bit. I'd go back to Chicago like 10 years later. We had we were never romantic ever again, but just as a friend, because I knew her mom and dad, I knew her sisters, because we dated for 3 years. That was a very kind of like this key time when you're 18 to 21.
Yes.
You're not traveling the world. I usually go to her house and, for dinner, and we're watching a movie, and, all the whole gang going out to the park or something.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of stuff as a family.
Yeah.
So fast forward this thing to about 6 months ago, the girls moved to Chicago. And so now, I mean, Jennifer and I are both in our 60s, right? She texts me and she says, hey, I'm moving in with my new boyfriend.
Okay.
And I'm gonna move. I'm gonna get rid of the furniture. Would you like to have it? I'm going, you hung on to that for 40 years? I thought for sure it was at some Salvation Army. And that would have been, I mean, I thought about it maybe once or twice over the years. It's like, well, it's her stuff. I said,
Wow.
I said, first I was amazed because it was not nice stuff. I mean, it's pine, not
Wow.
fancy. So my girls are in Chicago. She's in Chicago. And I said, yeah, I'll see if the girls are interested. And of course they were. And they drove over there and they met her and they exchanged stories and
Yeah.
they got the furniture. And Jennifer even gave her a picture of me when I was 19. As a matter of fact, that's the picture I have on my Facebook page of me sitting in a tree.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that's fascinating.
That's crazy. But she had to think about our relationship every time she saw that furniture, I'm imagining, or at least it was a remembrance.
Yes. I will say, of all of my relationships, I was trying to think while you were telling that story, I've only kept one thing from one person, and I'm a big gift giver. I like to give gifts, but I will say the only thing that comes to mind is there was one of my lovers gave me a bracelet that said "Remember me," and I kept it because he was such a sweet man.
I mean,
And
as your life goes by, these are all little, pieces of your life.
yeah,
You're the
we didn't
mosaic.
work out, but he was a sweet man. Every once in a while, I'll look at it and think, oh, oh God, I knew that guy.
Yeah. Okay. I have a question.
Yes,
We're gonna flip the mood here 100%. Are you ready? Or 180?
let's do it.
So how about if a guy buys you boobs?
Oops.
Boobs.
Okay, making sure, making sure. Mine are great. I don't need any new ones, but keep talking.
I'm saying, so now then, 18 months later, you guys break up.
His loss.
Okay, does she ever think about him when she's looking at her boobs, or she's in the next sexual relationship and the guy's, wow, you really have nice breasts? Does his name pop up in her head at all?
Well, I'm going to say if you're a good soul, you might offer some financial reciprocation to balance it out.
Who are you talking about? Who's we?
That the lady would give the
Oh,
cash
she's
to
never given cash. That's
I'm saying
never
if you're a
happening.
good soul. However, you can never forget where it came from. And I would think it would always be on your mind. Always be on your mind. 100%. If you're hardcore and you don't care, it would be more like, that's right, motherfucker. Someone else has got these now. That's what I think.
So you do think that she thinks about? I've never bought anyone boobs, but
Yeah.
I've known that it happens. I know that it happens.
I think if I was with someone and they offered to buy me boobs, I would rethink my relationship.
Okay, but what if it was your idea? Like you're always going on about these. I feel so, you're self-conscious
Yeah.
about your chest or you're self-conscious.
Yeah.
And the guy says, well, it's just $4,000. I know Dr. Hackenbush. Maybe he can.
That's different. You're
Yeah.
right. It's different. If it was my concept, then yeah, it's very
Yeah,
different.
no. Yeah. So some guy who meets some girl and they're dating for 3 months and he wants to buy her boobs.
Haven't you ever watched that show Botched with all the terrible surgeries? I'm fascinated by that. And there's stories all the time about women who had no inkling of getting boobs, but then the
That's
guy,
insane.
yeah, yeah,
I'm no hero, but I probably talked women out of it more than I've talked them into it. I've never talked anybody into anything. I was like, you
yeah,
know what? Yeah,
yeah,
try to be more confident with what you've got, not thinking something outside. Not
yeah.
to say that I'm not a fan, but
I will tell you, as someone who's always had bigger boobs, I think the girls that have the little boobs have a misconception of how much fun it's going to be to have them. You have to carry them around at all times. You never get a break from them.
6 years, yeah, no
And
dates.
then when you're pregnant, they're really ginormous. So I've talked to women that have had enlargements and they regretted them because they start to recognize the reality of, oh, it was fun at first, but then you dress around them. When you have bigger boobs, you have to dress around them because
Is
they
this the tip of
become.
the day?
Yes, it's the tip of the day.
I don't. This is interesting to a man. I would think that just like I was born with arms, I don't think about how I've got to deal with them on a daily basis. Maybe when I'm sleeping, I wish I could take an arm off and stick it on a counter so it wouldn't get in my way. I would think that as your breasts came in, you would just kind of like, you know, you would adjust and it wouldn't
Well,
be, go ahead.
here's
I don't know
the
what
thing
I'm talking about.
yeah. Well, as someone who has breasts, I'll tell you what
Let
it
me
is.
just tell you about your breasts, okay? Get a pencil.
Because you don't have boobs when you're younger, and when they start to grow and you have no control over the size, it's very intimidating because you have to change the way you carry yourself and the way you dress and the way you exercise because it changes
You
your
really feels your center of gravity.
it absolutely does. And as because men are obsessed with boobs, in high school I wore very baggy clothes because I did not when I didn't bloom. I was a late bloomer. I didn't even have my period till I was 16, which I know is a lot of information, but that's not normal.
16.
16.
What
So
happened?
all my friends had their period before me. So I didn't get boobs until then, right? So I
Oh,
went from like this little freshman girl, like really lanky, to a kind of a sexual being. And it's shocking when boys start to point out and say things. So I totally changed the way I dressed because I didn't feel safe anymore.
right.
So
So
I think girls with smaller boobs don't recognize the luxury of wearing cute little tank tops and all those things because you can't wear a tank top when you have big boobs because it becomes about your boobs all the time, which is it's unfortunate because I would love to wear form-fitting clothes and not feel like people were making it a sexual thing as much as like, oh, that's attractive. You know what I
right.
mean? Like that's attractive. So the same way I feel about you guys with balls. I can't imagine walking around with that between my legs. And
Oh,
don't they
they're
stitch your legs
hideous.
and stuff? And then they
Hot and
get
sweaty,
sweaty.
scratchy.
And then if you're out in public and you get a boner, I can imagine what that feels like. No, that's terrible. I'm glad to be a lady girl. I'll take my boobs over your balls any
Any
day.
day. But it's an interesting thing. Boobs are crazy because it's an external sex signal.
Yeah.
Whereas, nobody really knows the size of someone's balls or penis.
Right.
I mean, generally, unless you're a rock
Right.
star and you put a sock in your pants, even
Yeah.
you're kind of giving a signal. But you know what I'm saying? But it's interesting that that's out there,
Well, and
literally.
we have the phrase about having big balls, but is that even a thing? Because it's not really about the balls.
I think some guys do have bigger balls.
I'm trying to
I'm
think,
gonna ask you. I don't. But it's hard to judge because balls are are they change depending upon the weather.
and they're very like I will say, as a female who's been with naked men, it's not something you spend a long time staring at because they're not appealing. Balls are not that. So I don't know that I've ever looked and thought, well, what's the circumference of
Well, I'm
these?
saying, but sometimes if it's cold out, your balls are retracting into your body, and then if it's hot out, your balls are low.
Retracting into your body, like
Have
in?
Have you ever made that observation?
No, but I'm not a ball starer.
I
But
understand it, but I mean they will change. The difference could be 4 inches.
really,
Oh, if I'm cold, my balls will come in a tight little sack that look like two little walnuts. If you're
okay.
hot, you're at the beach. Those things are hanging down 4 inches and they're swinging in the breeze.
Well, because that's the other thing about balls is I know guys have to adjust them, but
How
I
many
also
tips of the day are we going to give today? We're over the limit.
this is not even on our list. We didn't have balls and boobs on the list.
Well, your
What?
balls will turn green, and if you haven't had sex in a while,
Yeah, that's a fallacy. That's a fallacy. Don't fall for it,
they think it's
ladies.
blue, but it's
Don't
green.
fall for it. Um, yeah. So I will say the thing about being having boobs where people can see them is very sexual. Where it's different for guys with their balls and everything because you guys never really have to worry about. Well, I better not dress like that. That's too overtly sexual. You know what I mean? You are who you are. You get to go out how you are. And it all is easy breezy unless you get a boner or something. And then, obviously that's a problem.
I
And what
mean,
do
how
you
many?
do?
Yeah, it doesn't happen very often
But what do you do?
after you're 16.
Because I've always wondered about the strippers. How do the strippers, do they take something, the male strippers, so they don't have a boner when they dance?
No, that's an interesting thought. I mean, your testosterone varies as you're getting older, and as you and you know, when you're 35 years old and a stripper, you might have high testosterone, but that doesn't mean you're walking around with a boner.
Right, but I'm
They still
guessing
need to be stimulated in some fashion.
but they're dancing on these ladies and they're in their faces, and I would think that would cause a stimulation.
I'm also, there's another factor that's involved, is how new is this experience? If this is every day at the office, it's like,
No big deal.
whatever. Now, the first time they might have had boner troubles, maybe the
Right.
first 12 times, but after that, it becomes business as usual.
I bet they take something. I bet
No,
they take something.
but no, because they may need their boner later.
I'm going to research this. And
No guy that wasn't in war has ever taken anything to diminish a boner. Maybe he's a priest.
what about
Hang on, I got a call. FedEx is here.
Are you serious? All right, then I'm going to talk about, oh, yeah, see, you in your gym shorts. Okay, then I want to know about I want anybody to call in that's hired a male stripper or that kind of thing. That we've had male strippers come to parties and do things like that. Since that's a new situation and it's stimulating because they're always grinding and getting up close to people, that has to be a circumstance too. So I want to hear from anybody that's hired a male stripper to come to their home, because I want to know. I'm going to research. There's no way those guys aren't getting boners.
He didn't need a signature. He just knocked as a courtesy. I apologize.
But you can't be too careful about that.
Yeah,
You
I don't
got
want, because I'm waiting on stuff.
Yeah. So I just posed a question to everybody. I want people to tell
I
me.
think I've never heard of such a thing. Well,
It's
you know,
got
the Army used to issue saltpeter
I've heard of saltpeter, and why did they issue it?
because they didn't want, you know, 50,000 horny guys in France and nowhere to go. So they take this stuff to diminish their sexual, 18-year-old kids. They want to do it all the time. So that saltpeter would diminish their desire, apparently.
Do you think it worked?
I don't know, but I think you're crazy about the.
I don't
No
know.
one's ever taken something to diminish their boner before they go dance.
I bet they have. If it's for
Well, if
work,
they get a boner, they get a boner while they're dancing. I think that wouldn't women like that?
it's scarier when it's like that. It means business.
I know, but if you're 6 rows away and he's not right on you, it's like, ooh, look at that.
Well, from what I've heard is that they're like semi-erect when they dance, so there's a little bit
Yeah,
going on.
you don't want something that looks like your thumb.
No, no,
I
you
mean,
don't.
when my balls are getting contracted, the other side is working similar, just like George and shrinkage, right?
Yes, in shrinkage.
I had an
Yes.
interesting conversation about some months back. I was some woman and I were chit chatting about this, that, and the other thing. It's like she goes, "Well, I didn't see you walking around with a boner." I said, "I haven't walked around with a boner since I was, 18. You don't
That's
get out."
definitely
Yeah,
that's a thing for the youth.
you need the boner is. I mean, when men, I know women don't think so, but men have to be. There's a little pregame as well. There's a little foreplay as well that's necessary to get everything going. It's not like somebody's flipping a switch or a woman says
Right.
let's go. It's automatic. That's why they're making all
Right.
those pills.
No, absolutely. No, I think so. Absolutely. On another note, before it's too late, I want to point out I never addressed before we did our earlier show about pillows. Men are always asking women why they have so many pillows. I'm a fan of pillow covers. And I recently bought this online because I think it's hilarious and it makes me so happy. And it says a lot about life. Like, you might be a little goldfish, but you know what? You can still wear the shark fin. People above the water don't know. So
It's a status change. This kind of has a little theme to our. This goldfish is not returning your emails or your texts because that goldfish thinks it's the man.
and I'm very familiar with that. So yes.
I like
So
it.
okay, we probably need to do the tip of the day. I'm sure we're way over time like normal.
Yeah, we are about we're not terrible.
Not so bad.
Huh?
No, tell me your tip. You said you had 2 tips of the day.
Okay, I'm going to give you 2 tips, and then maybe we'll do one more of your topics.
Okay.
One tip is have something on the calendar, especially these days when you're like one day rolls into the next, rolls into the next.
Yes.
Have something on the calendar.
Yes.
You're working up to, I want to read 10 books before blah, blah, blah. I want to fix this closet before blah, blah, blah. I want to take that hike out in the country, blah, blah, blah. Have something on the calendar. Otherwise, it does bleed into one day is like the next. And kind of, there's also leads into my second tip of the day is be a bricklayer. You may want to do something like learn the guitar or the piano or whatever it is. I want to be a stand-up comic. I want to write books. Every day, if you lay a little couple of bricks, towards that goal, and all of a sudden, 3 years later, guess what? I'm a virtuoso on the piano.
That is so true. Don't you think most people get frustrated because they think they have to do
Absolutely.
it all at once?
It's all this learning curve stuff. You just got to be able to suffer through. I was talking to my brother about. I always wanted to play the guitar. I always thought it was fascinating. I thought there's no way I could do that.
Yeah.
And when I was 50, I'm yelling at the kids because the girls were taking piano lessons. I said, "Why doesn't somebody around here play the guitar, for gosh sakes? You play that, blah, blah." And then I did the old Michael Jackson Man in the Mirror, right? Why don't you learn how to play the guitar, jackass?
Yes, very good.
So I took 3 lessons. Then I argued with the guy. I wanted to play Cat Stevens. And he's like, "What? Who's that?" I go, "I can't deal with a guy who can't." So then, but essentially at the end of the day, if you break down, especially guitar, once you learn just 12 minutes of somebody explaining to you fingering and what the book looks
Yes.
like, it's not that hard. It's all practice. I told my brother, it's 15 minutes a day because your fingers really can't take more than that. And it's 15 minutes a day. And inside 2 months, 3 months, maybe sooner than that, you'll be able to play. I said, my biggest breakthrough was when I could finally stop looking at the book and then checking my fingers and look at the book, check your fingers. And then once it became just look at the book and play, that's when the enjoyment is. But that's only really 3 months away. 15 minutes a day, you're instead of watching TV. And I'm a great example of procrastinating. But yeah, try a little something like that. I'm encouraging. I need it myself. There's so many things I haven't done.
I love that very much. That's a good one. Thank you.
Oh, and be careful. Don't shave too soon. Look at that.
Does it when you've had a beard like you've had and then you shave, then is your face real itchy or it feels fine?
Feels fine. Sometimes I tell you, back 10 years ago when I was growing a beard, I would be pulling on it, tugging on it, stroking it, all that. And then you find you're getting like acne underneath the beard. So it became a problem. But fortunately, I have not done that. Just, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm growing this back. I feel like I'm shorn.
But see, you're lucky because you can pull off a beard. You have a nice beard and you can pull off a clean shaven face. Have you ever met those people that have always had the beard and they shave it off and you're like, oh.
Oh, my brother-in-law, his chin disappeared with the beard. He had no chin.
Yes. Yes.
And nobody even
a guy that had a beard and he shaved it off and I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, grow that back as soon as possible.
Grow it back. But you can do both, which is very nice. So
I think I like my a little 5 o'clock shadow going on, which is very popular these days. So I like that.
Yeah.
I don't like it when it gets too long.
That's a good look. And you're lucky you've got your hair because, guys that lose their hair, I feel bad for them. Even though bald became a trend, right? Bald became a thing. I still think if we all want to be honest, men like to have their hair,
It's funny. When I was a kid, I hate to what is this? Tom's Story Day? I was trying to hop a freight train.
Oh, I vaguely remember this story.
It was going too fast, and I grabbed onto the ladder, and it picked me up off the ground, and I held on for 0.6 seconds, crashing to the ground. So lucky I didn't lose my arm or my leg or my head or whatever, but I had this huge bash on my head, but it was covered with hair. Well, that's long gone. The scar remains, but the hairline used to be here. The hairline used to be here.
Yeah.
So, it's crazy.
No, I get it.
I'm happy for what I got left.
Yeah. No, you've got great hair, but we definitely need to do an episode on childhood mishaps. I think we've all done things that were like, how did I live? When I read stories about kids doing dumb things and dying, I'm like, I get it, man. I get it.
We dodged so many bullets. We used to can I tell another story?
Yeah.
Trains have a caboose, and in the caboose there are flares, and there's also torpedoes on the caboose, right? Where they take like an explosive and they have lead straps on it. Okay,
What?
So you got an explosive that's about the size of a watch, right? Like a chocolate.
Yeah.
With lead straps. So if you need to warn a train coming behind you, they take the explosive and they'll wrap it on the rail with the lead straps. So the guys behind him are coming with the train and they hear boom, 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 boom. So it's like a signal to the conductor there or the train guy that there's some shit going on ahead of you.
Yeah.
So it's a way to signal the train before radios and cell phones and all that stuff. So you signal the train with these things. Well, as a kid, of course, we'd steal the flares, and then we'd steal these things. And now we're strapping these things to a brick and throwing the brick up in the air and trying to get this thing to explode. Fortunately, we never were successful because it would have killed us all. It's like throwing a hand grenade in the air.
Yeah. As a child, you think you're infallible. You think that
I don't think infallible.
I didn't mean to say, the minute it came out, I was hoping you wouldn't recognize that I said infallible.
I'm required to call out all mistakes. What's the word, though?
That's why I threw that one out, because I lost my word. You think that you are, what's the word where you think you're never going to get hurt?
There is a word.
There's a word. Not infallible. You think you're, I thought it started with N.
Yeah, it's very close. It'll come.
So when you think you're never going to be hurt, these things don't seem as dangerous. They seem fun.
Right.
They seem fun. Let's blow this up. Let's jump on the train.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you have a tip or a final topic? They're not kicking us off. We'll go another minute or two.
Us off. Okay. Okay. This is a lovely, sweet thing. What's your word? So I think you and I like a lot of the same things. And one thing you and I are really good at that we like are great questions, right? Good topics. We like thoughtful questions and things that have meaning to them. So last Christmas, I ordered a bunch of cards because I'm always looking to see interesting things that are overseas and different things. And this is a company, I believe, from Denmark, and it's called My Intent. So I bought these cards, and what it is they're just a bunch of cards that have meaningful questions on them. And so I gave them to a bunch of my friends because I feel like maybe sometimes you just need a conversation starter, right? You just need a little bump. I mean, I feel like you and I have an easy way of saying, why would you want balls when you can have boobs? Like, we say stuff like that. But I think a lot of people don't know how to dig in, right?
Right.
So every once in a while, I still have several. So when I think of someone, I'll go, oh, you know what? I'm going to send these to these people. So every once in a while, I'll dig these out and ask Alex and Will, my daughter and her boyfriend, a question. Because even though we talk, we're not sitting down and digging in deep, right? So I'm going to shuffle these, and I'm going to open one, and I'm just going to ask you the first question that comes to mind.
Remember when the Book of Questions was popular about 20 years ago?
Book of Questions. I love everything about that stuff. It makes you really stop and think about what is true to you, because I don't think we take a lot of time doing that. Like, what's true to you?
Right.
Okay, here we go. I'm going to open it. And here we go. Okay. This says, what does this world need more of? That's for you.
Well, I think the obvious answers are like patience and understanding, tolerance, things like that. You know what? I think people, you know what this world needs more? More travelers. If you travel to a different country, you're going to see how everybody's the same. We're all trying to, scratch out a living and care for our children.
Yes.
But if you take some brown person in some land you don't know, it's easy to hate on them. Yeah, they're trying to come in and get us. No. If you go over there, they're just trying to get out from underneath some dictator that's trying to crush them. And we're all trying to. So if you travel more, I think you'd have more of an understanding.
I love that. I just read something the other day that says the United States is like 80% of people that have never traveled that say we have the best country in the world.
Compared to what?
I think I've gotten the impression that Europeans are better at traveling than Americans are,
Oh
right?
yeah, yeah. I've been embarrassed by many Europeans. So you've been over to whatever? No, I never have. I
Oh,
mean, I only traveled, but I've traveled the hell out of the United States.
yes.
A little bit of Mexico, a little bit of Canada, and I've been to Ireland. But it's embarrassing. Haven't been
Yeah.
to Italy or Greece. It's
Right.
ridiculous.
My dream is once the pandemic's over and it's safe, I've already told my sister we're going for 2 weeks to Ireland. I'm
Oh,
Irish.
nice.
I've always wanted to go. I'm going to look up my ancestors. And then after that, I'm going to go to Italy. I really would like to have an Italian lover from
Of
Italy.
course, yeah. I think they've got a website for that. All right. Do you have any tips, or are we gonna say goodbye?
uh, I always have tips, but I think I want to end it on what you said. I think that's lovely. We need more
Oh,
travelers. I think having more travelers opens your world, opens your heart, and it teaches you a lot about yourself. And don't wait for someone to travel with you. I've traveled alone a lot, and it has really opened up my world. It's lovely to have a traveler, but when you travel alone, you have a tendency to look out more because you don't have another person to kind of sidebar and pull in. So,
right. I don't. I agree with that. I prefer to travel with a partner, but yeah, I agree that you shouldn't stop or not travel. But there's so many singles groups and whatever you could just.
yeah,
They're all traveling together. All right.
yeah.
I think that's been a good one, dear.
Yeah, I'm very excited that we just went way off the path and we went right down that sex road. But you know
Balls
what?
and
People
boobs.
people want to know. These are things people think about. They don't say it out loud, and we're happy to represent.
Absolutely. Happy to give all this sort of misinformation. All right. See you Wednesday.
Sounds good. Thanks for unpacking some
Thanks
shit.
for unpacking. My name's Tom Wise.
I'm Melinda McKenzie.
See you Wednesday. Oh no, I hit the wrong button.
Oh no.
Cancel that.
Uh oh.
Record this.